Good afternoon. Again, welcome to Hey Everybody, Come On Get Appy. My name is Sarah Hart. I'm a white woman in my mid-30s with turquoise glasses and green-blue ocean-colored hair. Today I'll be talking about some great apps for visually impaired children who may or may not have additional disabilities. But a little bit about me before we get started. I have always loved technology, whether I'm confidently telling my father how to build a Macintosh computer out of the box at age 5, playing computer games like Carmen Sandiego and the Zoombinis, or working with students to provide assistive tech that makes their lives more fun and easier to navigate. I've been working in special ed for 10 years, and in that time, the way technology has taken off for accessible purposes has been really incredible. Here at Perkins, I work as an assistant coordinator of residential living in the deafblind program, and I really enjoy what I do. And I love the game Stardew Valley, which is also an app. And here's a little avatar of what I would look like in that game. So this is a pixelated version of a woman with blue hair and glasses. Today, I've broken up my talk into 5 steps. First, we'll talk about why apps can be beneficial for children with cortical visual impairments and other types of visual impairments. Then I'll introduce you to some of my favorite apps for this group of children. After that, we'll talk about how to adapt apps and other pieces of technology so they work best for the child or children in your life. We'll take a look at what the future of technology could look like as your children get older. And finally, we'll talk about ways to stay engaged with tech and help it grow with your loved ones. We will have an opportunity for questions at the end, so please hold any questions until then. Why get appy? Down at the bottom, I have a great quote. Never be afraid to try something new. Remember, amateurs built the Ark, professionals built the Titanic. There are a lot of benefits for children who start using tablets at a young age. I know that there's a lot of scare talk about children becoming dependent on tablets and not knowing how to engage with others, but there really are great benefits for these children learning how to use technology. KQED, a public television and radio provider in San Francisco, ran a study on toddlers and young children who use tablets and found some really great benefits. Young children were able to develop fine motor skills faster. When they used apps with their parents or teachers, they were 19 times more likely to transfer out what they learned from the app to real-world applications as opposed to children who played alone. Apps promote active, engaging, and meaningful learning and can bolster social interaction skills and work on things like turn taking. Apps are extremely versatile. They can focus on letters, numbers, sign language, music, fine motor practice, and so much more. The picture on the screen shows a young child touching a screen of a tablet with her right hand. There are specific benefits for children with CVI or other visual impairments. Dr. Muriel Saunders from the University of Kansas worked on app testing with visually impaired children and found that apps that met certain criteria helped them the most. Apps that were built for CVI visual needs, like a dark background and bright colors, kept them engaged and could show them interesting pictures and shapes. Some apps can even be customized further to use colors a child sees best. So if your child has a preferred CVI color, like red or yellow, some apps are able to change into those colors to help them engage. Tablets are now off-the-shelf accessible and can be modified in many ways to fit the access needs of children with a wide variety of abilities. Apps react to a child's engagement and promote first then understanding, such as first I touch the picture, then it plays music. Tablets are extremely portable and can be used in a variety of settings. Heavier pieces of technology are still fantastic, but if you're on vacation, you don't really want to lug around a light table. They're also approximately the size of many children's visual fields. And finally, tablets are omnipresent among children without disabilities, meaning there's a possibility for creating understanding and social interaction between disabled and non-disabled children. It can start conversations and in some cases make it easier for children to communicate with each other. On screen is a photo of 2 young children taking turns touching a tablet. So who did all the work here for this presentation? My testers were both Perkins and non-Perkins students. All of them have additional disabilities beyond their visual impairment. All of them are nonverbal. Some use AAC, augmentative communication, to communicate. Some use signs, and others use gestures and vocalizations. 50% of them have Charge syndrome and qualify as deafblind. Many of them have a cortical visual impairment. 25% of my testers needed additional adaptations to use the apps that I asked them to test, things like switches or styluses. I am grateful to them for their assistance. They made the process very fun and very informative for me. They all had a blast, and it was fun to watch them. On screen is a picture of a young girl with glasses leaning in to touch some bumps on toy cups, and there is an adult hand holding her hand, helping her touch those bumps. So let's get into the apps. This is the fun part. All the world is a laboratory to an inquiring mind, says Martin H. Fisher. He was a German physician who regularly lectured on the importance of learning and continuing to learn at any age. So he's got a perfect thought for us. When we look at the apps today, I have a set series of information that will guide the review for each one. We'll talk about the title, the price, but I've also judged each app based on 8 learning categories, which I'll discuss on the next couple of pages. After that, I'll share some thoughts from my testers. So sorry. When I started looking at apps I felt would be beneficial for kids with CVI and other visual impairments, I knew I needed a scale to determine how and if those apps were actually benefiting them. I came up with 8 factors I felt were important for an app to contain in order to be the best of the best. These 8 factors are: CVI focus. Is the app specifically built for kids with CVI, or does the app coincidentally have a setup that works well with CVI? Bright colors. These are attractive, they're attention-grabbing, and they can encourage children to engage further. Sound responsive. If a child touches the screen, does it respond with sound in any way? Fine motor skills. Apps that develop fine motor skills are hugely beneficial as a child ages and can promote things like holding crayons and pencils later on. Free play. Is this an app that doesn't have a true purpose and can just be enjoyed at a child's own pace? Sensory engagement. Things like lights, music, patterns, and/or sounds that can be soothing or exciting, depending on the combination. Is it adaptable? Can this app work well with devices like switches or styluses? And finally, does an app promote preschool concepts like learning the names of objects or colors? Or does it provide a simple problem that a child might want to solve? Using these 8 factors, I designed a donut chart to show which apps met most of these criteria. Going around counterclockwise, starting with red, the factors are presented on the chart. Red corresponds to CVI focus, orange to bright colors, yellow to sound responsive, green to fine motor, blue to free play, purple to sensory, fuchsia to adaptable, and a dusty pink to preschool concepts. As we go through the apps, you'll see that each one has a corresponding chart with their elements noted. Our first app is Baby Piano. It's an app that's designed to introduce musical instruments and sounds to children. My testers were drawn in by the bright colors and the clearly defined buttons to produce sounds. They enjoyed switching between musical instruments and loved the variety of sounds. On the 8-factor scale, it meets 6 of 8. It was not specifically designed for children with CVI, and it does not introduce any preschool concepts. For each app, we will have a video. So here's our app in motion. I should say that when you see these apps, this is a screen recording of different types of testing being used based on different student interactions. Some of them are using a single finger, others are using switches, and others are using palms or multiple fingers at a time, giving different output. So you saw there, some of the notes were precise and hitting each button, others are more going up and down the scale. Some of my testers needed help switching between instruments, but all were able to press the buttons for sounds independently, either with a single finger or again with multiple fingers or palm. This app is called Balloon Pop, just exactly what it says. It shows a bunch of fun balloons ready to be popped. It's a 6 out of 8. It was not specifically designed for children with CVI, and it does not introduce any preschool concepts. Pretty silly, pretty simple. My testers enjoyed popping the balloons to receive auditory feedback. They liked the silly animations that showed up when they popped the balloons. Some of them did find it hard to see the blue balloons against a blue background. And a few of them were startled by the variation in the pop sounds, which on the app can be either very loud or sometimes just regular pop noises. Overall, most of them found it very fun and silly. Bubble Bop is a similar app where children can pop bubbles. These kind of apps are great for divining pointer control to enhance fine motor skills. This one is definitely geared towards kids without visual impairment, so it's 4 out of 8. It provides sensory feedback, it's sound responsive, and requires some fine motor controls, and it is especially designed for free play. My testers enjoyed the bright colored balloons, the red balloons on the screen there. They were much easier to see and provided ding feedback noise. And they also liked being able to put their entire hand on the screen and pop as many bubbles as they could. Crazy Gears is a puzzle solving game. It hits 4 out of 8 factors, so it's preschool concepts, bright colors, sound responsive, and fine motor. But for my testers who really enjoyed it, 4 were enough. Kids are shown a series of gears and ways to connect them in order to pull a new slide over and find a new puzzle. This one really often required hand-over-hand assistance, but even if a tester wasn't able to complete the puzzle themselves, watching the gears move was very captivating. I love this one just straight on, not even for kids, and I think it's a really great concept, and I hope you'll enjoy seeing a video of it. This game, as you can see, has multiple levels. I would say 15 of those first 18 or 19 were done by one young woman who tried the app and then set the iPad down, and we thought she was finished. We came back 20 minutes later, she was still playing. So definitely a good puzzle solving project for her, and she really did like it. Edda Play Tom is a CVI friendly app that shows farm concepts on a black background. Tapping on the screen multiple times shows different things happening to the animals, for instance, a horse getting brushed or a pig being fed. This one is a 7 out of 8 on the factors of play scale. The only factor it didn't hit was being sensory focused. Each of those animations was prompted by a single tap on the screen, so you can see how rewarding that would be for just a single tap. Also, I think that's super cute and funny, just those animals having fun. Electra is a sensory app that was enjoyed by all of the testers. It shows an electrical beam in a variety of colors against a black background that makes an electronic sound. And I will definitely turn the sound down on the video because it does very loud. My testers enjoyed using all of their fingers or their palm to make the beam move in different ways. One tester would absolutely have stayed on this app all day if we'd let him. A fantastic 7 out of 8. It doesn't introduce any preschool concepts, but I don't think that makes it any less fun. I think it's pretty cool. Infant Zoo is a great CVI friendly app. It's bright and fun. There's lots of colors and there's a variety of animals. Sounds and movements offer immediate feedback to screen touches. Changing the animal from side to side once you've completed all of the animations on the current animal usually required assistance as the arrows are on either side of the screen and are transparent. A great 7 of 8. It doesn't offer any free play as the animals show up in a preset pattern. Basic sounds of the animals there. Very visually appealing though. I Love Fireworks is an amazing app that is literally the best bang for almost a buck. It's got a black background, bright colors, and an element of surprise when touched. Will the fireworks be big or small? This is a 7 out of 8. It doesn't introduce any preschool concepts, but meets the other 8 factors. This is a huge hit with everyone, both sighted and with visual impairment in the cottage that I work in. We could all play this game pretty much all day. And you can see that different fireworks react differently. Oh, sorry, still going. Much like a fireworks show. There we go. You can see that when different patterns are pressed or different fingers were used, that the fireworks did move in different lines, which can be fun as well. Joy Doodle is a free play drawing app that encourages fine motor skills for drawing. The black background is a great way to show off glowing lines and pictures. Some of my testers liked that the colors changed automatically while drawing, which eliminates the use of a palette to repeatedly touch and go back to, and some did not. A great 5 of 8. It's not adaptable and it doesn't have any sound responsiveness and it doesn't present any preschool concepts, but for a fun, basically free app that is easy to see on a black background, it does really well. This is me drawing, by the way, not a student, so you'll notice how skilled and beautiful the artwork is. I'm not that great of an artist, but I hope I have other skills that make up for it. Light Activity is a powerhouse of an app, and actually one that I did not know about before I started working on this project, but I will be recommending it highly now. It was developed by an American and Israeli Association for Blind Children, and parts of it are used in the field to assess children's visual acuity in places where there may not be specialized clinics or schools. There are tons of choices for kids to try out: music, colors, shapes. Everything seemed to be really engaging to my students. Because it does have so much packed into one app, it does have a longer loading time than most apps, but the time spent is well worth it. Well deserved 8 of 8.
Cat. Purple. Green. Pink. Red.
So every activity on there has its own set of settings that you can play around with to make sure they are the right ones for someone you might be working with. Whether it requires full contact, repeated contact, lifting the hand, single finger activation, those are all things you can change within the app. Cause and Effect Lightbox was developed for kids with visual impairments. I worked with kids using this in a public school about 7 years ago, but it's been updated since then. There are a lot of different effects that appeal to different visual fields and vision types. My testers found that they enjoyed it the most when the background and foreground colors were changed to their preferences. Some of them didn't enjoy the sounds that went along with the effects and wanted to change what they saw frequently. 6 out of 8, I didn't give it bright colors because the app itself and many of its functions aren't preset to show bright colors, and it does not present any preschool concepts. Again, lots of adjustability for students who might need different colors and lots of great sound responsiveness. MusicBox is a fun app. I really enjoyed this one, and my testers loved the music. They also enjoyed that different effects happened when they used their pointer finger as opposed to their palm or multiple fingers together. The app responds to touch and continues to play the song when a new touch happens. So every time they would interact with the screen again, the song would continue going. Sometimes my testers found the screen very busy with animations and they would stop responding to it while they checked out the visual field. And it's not built for preschool concepts or with a CVI focused color palette. But still a great 6 of 8. I think you're going to find it really cute. This was a surprisingly engaging app, My Baby Drums, for my testers. Most of them really enjoy music, and so My Baby Drums was a fun and engaging way to enjoy different sounds. Each drum makes a different sound, and the app can be engaged with 1 or 2 fingers. There's also an option to have music on or off in the background while drumming, which added to the entire experience. 7 out of 8 with 1 point off for not having a CVI color palette. That's obviously the app there at the end and not my students, the drum prodigies. Sorry, let me go back a slide. Ani and Alona is a company that developed the next two apps we'll look at. They are definitely designed for individuals with low visual acuity. This first app breaks up pictures into separate pieces that can be reassembled by tapping or dragging them. My testers preferred tapping mode because they didn't have to drag anything, and dragging is often a harder skill than simply tapping. It's one that can be learned, but when you're starting out, tapping is great. Assembling the animals was fun, but took some practice, and this app gets an 8 out of 8. Lots of fun. This is the second Ani and Alona app featuring animals called Happy Animals. A simple cause and effect was very appealing. Multiple taps and holding on the picture created new effects. Like another app discussed earlier, changing from slide to slide was usually something that my students required assistance with since the arrows are transparent and on either side of the screen. This app is a 7 out of 8, although I guess you could technically call it an 8 out of 8 since it does introduce the preschool concepts of animals. Pretty mesmerizing. Silk is an app that I was introduced to several years ago, and it's remained as cool as ever. It shows colored lines and curves on a black background that interact and cross depending on the movements made on the screen. This app works great with a stylus or fingers, either a single finger or multiple fingers. Drawing on the screen produces fantastic effects. 6 of 8, it is not switch adaptable, and it does not introduce any preschool concepts. think it's always very beautiful how those art pieces turn out. Smart Shapes is a very fun app that was easily the favorite of one of my testers. Most of my testers needed extra support to drag buttons to their corresponding holes on screen. Most of them found it absolutely hilarious to watch the buttons bounce back and forth and into the correct places. 5 out of 8, it's adaptable, introduces preschool concepts, has bright colors and sound responsiveness, and encourages fine motor skills.
Light blue, square. Purple, circle. Pink, oval. Yellow, triangle. Blue, rectangle. Purple, circle. Green, oval. Red, triangle. Light blue, square. Blue, pentagon. Pink, circle. Yellow, triangle. Excellent.
Pretty good. Tap and See Now was created specifically for CVI needs. My testers enjoyed tapping the shapes. Some of the shapes were non-traditional, so not animals or other basic things that they'd seen before. And they were occasionally confused about their input. On every tap, the object grows larger, but there's occasionally a sound response to the taps. It doesn't happen every time. 6 of 8, no free play mode, and no real preschool concepts. Like I said, there's not really a lot of correlation between sounds and touches, which was really frustrating for a lot of my testers who thought there should be a sound for their great job touching. Touch to Jump is a Switch activated powerhouse. If you want an app that is built specifically for Switches, you should look no further. It's also fun to play with manual input with fingers. Multiple taps are required to move each figure into the light, and the figures are silly and fun to look at. 6 of 8, no preschool concepts, and no free play.
Big. Easy.
I love it. Just no notes. It's great. Touch Pianist is an app that started out as one of my very favorites just for my own personal usage. And when I introduced it to my students at the time, they also enjoyed it. The music is classical, so if you're looking for more of a highbrow app, you might find it here. It's an app that's great for practicing stylus use or repetitive touches of the screen. Hitting any part of the screen causes music to advance, and any tempo of touches is acceptable. Hitting higher on the screen makes the music louder, hitting lower makes it softer. A lot of my students, it was hard to see the colors of the notes against the black background, but as a tool for teaching multiple touches or controlling a stylus, it worked perfectly. 4 out of 8, it's sound responsive and encourages fine motor skills, and it's a big sensory draw. It's also adaptable with switches and styluses. I'm going to cut that one really short. Apparently, I thought I was just going to play a symphony for you guys there. We got lots of other stuff to talk about. And AAA, Mesmerize Touch. It's not often an app delivers exactly what it says it will, but this one is absolutely mesmerizing. That's it. It's all it needs to be. There are different sounds and visual patterns that were very attractive and stimulating. My testers loved the ability to stop and start the movements. Many of them calmed down as they watched the patterns. 6 of 8, it wasn't built for CVI needs and it doesn't introduce preschool concepts. It's more of a sensory app. Very beautiful. Let's adapt it. So now that we've talked about a fantastic pantheon of apps that you can use for all of your children or anyone in your life, let's talk about some ways to make them more accessible to children with more complex needs. Albert Einstein tells us that imagination will take you everywhere, and it will take a bit of imagination to make things work for every child. But let's find out some ways to do it. Why should we adapt? Adaptations make tablets and games accessible, which means they put a child with multiple disabilities on the same playing field as non-disabled peers. Accessing educational apps through adapted methods makes learning fun and portable. Starting with low-stakes apps and adjusting adaptations until you find out what works best for your child can set up a path to success that may open up other possibilities in the future. Being able to activate a switch today to cause a picture to appear on a tablet screen can, with practice and growth, allow for the use of augmentative communication and adapted devices in their lives. The types of adaptations we'll be discussing today are switches, styluses, braces and hand supports, and mounts. On the picture here on the right side of the screen is a young boy and his mom looking at a tablet that's held on a stand. So when you're looking for resources to help you get the best adaptations for your child, there are a few different people who can help you figure out what methods or devices would be best. Your child's OT will know where their strengths are in terms of physical activation. Do they have a lot of control with their left hand, or do they prefer to use their feet instead of their hands? Are they able to move certain fingers or tilt their head on cue? These are all things to consider when adapting tablets and other devices. Similarly, an assistive tech specialist can provide insight. A tablet might not be the right thing for your child as they grow. They might do better with an eye gaze system and a computer. They might need certain types of switches or mounts that can help them access the full potential of their devices. And also you are a great resource. You will notice what motivates your child, what they look towards or reach towards, how they use their physical capabilities, and having that type of knowledge can really help professionals find that perfect fit for them. Switches are some very basic adaptations. iPads now are all switch capable straight out of the box, meaning that all of their functions can be controlled by switches. On the next slide is a video of how to set up an iPad for switch capability. We'll look at a little bit of that. Switches come in a variety of shapes and sizes. They can be positioned wherever your child is most likely to engage with them. And there are so many different kinds of inputs: pushing, pulling on a switch, breathing, facial twitches, whatever works best for accessibility, there's a switch for it. For iPads, you will either need a Bluetooth switch interface, as seen in the picture on the left, or a Bluetooth switch. The picture on the right shows a yellow round capability switch. So I'm scrolling down on the iPad to accessibility, and scrolling down to switch control and turning that on. And there you can set up for a left and right switch. I only have 2 switches in my Bluetooth adapter. So on the left switch, you can press to scan, and the right switch you can press to enter. And then once you've got that set up, you can use apps, you can use a keyboard, it can control the entire iPad for you. Easy Holds are a low-tech way to work with our next adaptation, styluses. Easy Holds are silicone straps that wrap around an individual's hand and can hold anything. The picture on the left shows them holding eating utensils, a toothbrush, a comb, an action figure, and a crayon or paintbrush. And I will show you a video on our right shows a young woman with severe multiple impairments using an Easy Hold to grasp a pen with a stylus point on one end, and she uses it to access a music app on the iPad. Easy Hold single straps start under $10, and a variety pack like the one on the left contains multiple straps in multiple sizes and costs around $35. She's not amused by it, but she's doing it. Trying her best. Like switches, styluses can be adapted for all kinds of needs. The stylus on the left is made of a flexible, infinitely repositionable plastic wire with an electroconductive tip on one end, and it's able to be wrapped around a user's hand or wrist, while the stylus on the right is more rigid and a Velcro strap holds it around a user's hand as they touch an iPhone screen. Switches, like I said before, they can be moved and positioned in all kinds of different ways to get the best engagement for your child. For some of your children, that may be with their heads. The picture on the left shows a Riften activity chair from the back with a switch mounted on a flexible arm held in a position where it could be accessed by a child tilting her head. Just like any other kind of switch, these come in many sizes and position options. On the right is a picture of what that switch arm looks like. So let's talk about the future. We're all going there, might as well find out. What does the future of accessible technology hold for your children? Well, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up somewhere else, says Yogi Berra, who was one of my grandpa's favorite philosophers, you could say. So what does the future look like for kids that learn to use tablets early on? They can blossom those skills into many different pathways. Learning to touch a screen with an isolated finger or in a particular spot can lead to the use of AAC communication programs. Fine motor skills enable a child to use adaptive controllers for video game systems, which is another very socially normal thing to do, and a way to engage with friends and family members. Video game companies are now adapting both controllers and games, which means that there are completely blind gamers playing AAA off-the-shelf games without any special software or equipment. And families who are knowledgeable about content and devices know what to advocate for when they ask companies or look to companies for further accessibility. In the future, you and your child can be part of a huge new sector in tech, which is accessibility. Take what you learn and share it with others, whether that's your families, your child's teachers, or tech companies. The picture on the left of a young blind woman sitting at a desk using a Braille display, her name is Jordan Castor. She is a blind engineer who's worked for Apple and Google, among other companies. And 18 years ago, I was her counselor at summer camp. So she's doing just fine. She's made it her mission to make tech more accessible for visually impaired and blind users, and she is well on her way. So let's stay appy. You've got the basics now, and I'm confident that interacting with tech is only going to lead to positive places for your child or any children you work with. So Patti LaBelle says, "Are you ready for a miracle?" As ready as I can be. Keeping happy really depends on you and your child and the work you put in. Ask for upgrades. If you think something provided by a school or a therapist is too simple and doesn't keep up with your child's skills or abilities you know that they have, find someone who will allow you to test the next grade up. Get creative with how your child accesses things. Share success stories with others and find out what might work better. Always try new things. If something isn't working, there are 10 other ways that could be winners. And ask questions and dream big. The world is accessible to your child, and it will only get more accessible if we work together. The information about the apps I've shared today will be uploaded to my Medium page. I can't find the slide for that, but it will be up there. Sarah.hart_25995. It's not there yet, but will be uploaded soon. I'm also available for any questions later on at sarah.hart@perkins.org. The photo on the right side of the screen, well, I can't see it. There is a beautiful photo of a young woman I worked with looking at a giant light bright. So just imagine that in your mind. We've come to the question portion of our talk. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. We'll go with people in the room first and then take questions from our virtual audience.
I find a lot of apps just by searching the App Store and trying things out.
Yes.
Are there any newsletters or listservs or anything you can recommend that might send things out for us?
I don't think there are at this point. I know there are a lot of people who make pages on their blogs of apps that work for them and their children. And I'm going to compile all this information to one place so I can send it out to people. But a lot of people write specific articles on blogs about apps that work for specific kinds of needs. So it'd be really cool to have something like that where there's a central listing of apps. It's a great idea. I'm sure one of them is my father.
Well, we had quite a bit of questions asking about the presentation and the list of apps.
Mhm.
So just wanted to remind everybody to take a look at the website and everything. It's all listed right there. We had 5 of those questions. The first question is, there are any apps for totally blind early age children 0 to 4? And then part 2 of that question is MusicBox able to just be touched even if totally blind?
Yes. A lot of the apps that I shared are able to be used by someone who's totally blind. Touch Pianist in particular is great because you don't actually need to see anything on there. It's perfect to just touch and practice, reaching out to put a hand on something. And yes, MusicBox is totally just touch-based. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, one last question. Will most of these apps work during a screen sharing mode in a remote learning session on Zoom, Google Meet, and Teams? I have students who are remote only and who need facilitators due to physical limitations that prohibit switch or touch screen across access on tablets.
I don't see any reason why they shouldn't. I know that I've been able to screen share apps working on tablets through things like Zoom or FaceTime. I'm sure there are ways to work for things like Google Meets that I'm not as familiar with, but there are usually ways to screen share almost anything. Thank you for your question. And thank you all for coming today. I really appreciated being able to share with you some of the fun I've been having over the last several months with the students I work with. Thank you.